Y'all, Gavin Newsom really wants to be president. I don't know if you could tell. I mean, Stevie Wonder and Helen Keller could tell. Now, there was once a time that I cautioned my fellow conservatives not to underestimate Gavin, who's a slick talker, but I was wrong. Let's go ahead and cross him off the list of Democrats to keep an eye on. With all the problems in California, the homelessness, bullet train to nowhere, population leaving for better states, gas prices, fire-ravaged areas wherein people still cannot rebuild their homes, Gavin and his press office are more concerned with posting on X and, of course, doing podcasts. The same folks who've had the Ukraine flag in their bios for the last 3 years would rather see the killing continue than President Trump be the one to broker a peace deal, because their brains are broken. They were mad before the Alaska summit, they were mad during the Alaska summit, and they're mad now. They're mad President Trump even agreed to go to the damn thing because apparently with all their social media foreign policy expertise, they think it's possible to end a war without meeting with the country that's waging it. But now, of course, they're also back to their old, tired, and many times debunked favorite narrative. Trump is a Russian asset.
Look, Alicia, I don't know if Donald Trump is or is not a Russian asset. I do know that at press conferences like this and like at Helsinki, he certainly acts like one. And that is cold comfort for anyone in the United States, particularly in our military, that the commander in chief would be so flattering of and so charming to a ruthless dictator like Vladimir Putin.
But clearly, Trump was not in control of anything. I mean, Putin was the alpha all day long, from Trump holding on his plane and waiting for him like a, middle schooler waiting for their first date. The red carpet that rolled out and the choreography. I mean, I went to dozens of foreign trips with the president. It is very rare to have a red carpet and then an ascent to a platform and then a walk down the stairs into a limo together. I won't say it's never happened, but it's exceedingly rare to the point that I can't think of it ever happening before.
It is possible we were more prepared for this meeting than he was.
Oh, you probably take that to the bank.
These people are so transparently disingenuous, morally bankrupt, and intellectually fried, just totally fried. Back to my original point. We've been listening to these people cry about Ukraine for over 3 years. They've waved the Ukrainian flag on the floor of the U.S. Congress, for goodness sake. President Trump didn't preside over this small incursion, as Otto Penn Joe first deemed it, but President Trump is committed to ending the killing and brokering peace. And to do that, yes, he kind of has to talk to the president of the country that invaded, the other one. And these losers on Twitter and MSNBC know that. They just play stupid on TV. You'd think they'd put aside their Trump hatred to applaud the effort towards peace and an end to the slaughter, but no. Truth is, even if President Trump brokered an end to this conflict, they'd still be upset because they hate Trump way more than they want peace. They're a bunch of disingenuous liars, and it's shameful. Joining me now, the perfect person to have today, Fox News contributor, author of the brand new wonderful book Behind the Badge, my friend Joey Jones. All right, Joey, I know you've been watching everything going on from Alaska to now today, the big meeting in D.C. I got to get your first initial take. Do you think that this is positive movement forward despite all the naysayers?
I don't see how you can see it any other way. If nothing else, you see where all the actors are after this. Say they walk out of this meeting and there isn't a deal. It's like Trump said, there isn't a deal until there's a deal. At least then you know where everyone is. From what we know under the Biden administration, these types of talks weren't even, I guess, welcomed. They weren't looked at. They just wanted to continue fighting. And, the latest estimate as of today was 2 more years of fighting, and Russia has the resources to achieve the goal they have to begin with. So why have 2 more years of people dying and our money, to be quite frank, going to a war that we're not fighting in? Why have that? Why not look for peace now? I understand completely. If you want to take objection to the outcome of this deal, say you don't like the deal that President Trump is trying to get Zelensky to sign off to, there are intellectual arguments against that. There are principal arguments against that. But the partisan arguments against it are what we just saw. I mean, a bunch of journalists that follow their words every day, saying they're more prepared for this meeting than President Trump was. A bunch of journalists or TV personalities critiquing the red carpet. If you have any sensibility at all, you saw Trump had a giant red carpet and Putin had this little skinny one. One thing I didn't hear him talk about were the bombers that flew over his head as he walked up, or the planes he had to walk by to get to President Trump. Everything about that was showmanship. I'll give him that. But it was showmanship for a reason. It was part of posturing, which is a big part of military strategy. President Trump is getting to the bottom of what kind of deal can happen and saying, listen, this is peace. It may not be the outcome you're looking for, but if it's peace, that is the outcome we should all be looking for. And that's what we elected him president to do. He literally won this country on that platform. This is not astray from anything he promised on the campaign trail. And I think that's what they miss most.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an important point that you're making. I would also add, for those that are going to be upset if Ukraine has to make any land concessions at all, I would ask, what's the alternative? Like, we just keep doing this? Because that's the thing here. It's like, okay, Russia's not going to stop. We're already trying to put the squeeze on them in terms of sanctions, in terms of punishing other countries that are buying their oil. Europe keeps buying their oil, by the way, which President Trump has talked about, oil and gas. But I don't see what's the other alternative, unless, I don't know, Europe wants the United States just to go in and fight it for them and then, I guess, start a war with Russia. I don't know what else they really want out of this president or out of a possible peace deal. Maybe you, with much more experience in this area than me, can enlighten me if there's any other route you see.
That's the problem is, every talking head from General Jack Keane, who knows as much about this as anyone, down to those idiots that you played before we started. No one has a definitive strategy that they can present and say, this is how you get this done. That's how difficult this is. I mean, President Trump himself has admitted, hey, I thought I could do this in days. This is the toughest one. I think he told Sean Hannity that after the meeting in Anchorage was this ended up being the toughest. And it is tough. It's tough because none of the predictable outcomes have happened. Russia's military strength didn't overcome Ukraine, and the cost of the war hasn't crumbled Russia to the point that they're giving up. So they're both the United States, or Ukraine through the United States, and Russia are in this limbo of both they have leverage and they also have a weakness or a desire to do something different. Russia is absolutely strained economically, but China's there buying their oil and keeping them along. So is India. And so they're not to the point of collapse over it. Putin has either a strong stubbornness that he has control over, or he has a strategy that he's implementing. He's not looking to end the war unless he can get something out of it, to where President Zelensky has to end the war in order to survive as a country. So that's leverage enough right there. It's not to say that Ukrainians haven't fought absolutely heroically. They have. I mean, they fended off one of the accepted superpowers in our world on their own territory. That's something to applaud and commend. But war created every line every country has pretty much in this world. And I guess we just we believe those things don't happen anymore. And the truth is they do, especially in a nuclear world, which is the ultimate card that we don't want played. I think President Trump's play for peace supersedes anyone's principle, and it supersedes anyone's wants and desires, and what we sit here and say that's not right. It's not right for Russia to invade Ukraine, kill thousands, if not more people, and then get something at all out of it. But is it more right to do this war for 2 more years and they may get it anyway? Is it more right for us to go to direct war with Russia, risk nuclear war, risk other countries in Europe and NATO getting invaded? And that's the question that President Trump has to deal with.
What's your thought on this discussion about security guarantees for Ukraine? Because that's reportedly something that's going to be discussed today is, okay, if we give up something, we want to guarantee that if Russia comes back in once more, that you're going to defend us. Now, listen, I don't think that that's outside of the box for Ukraine to ask for or, to put on the table. It would only be right that they would say, hey, you're going to, help us out if this happens again. I get it. But I don't know if there are many Americans out there that would have the appetite to send American troops to fight for Ukraine. That seems like a little further than I think most of us really want to go. But what's your take on it? Do you think that that's a reasonable assumption?
Well, I guess what I don't understand, and it's because I don't know this policy down to a T. I know that Ukraine doesn't meet the requirements to become a member of NATO. There are requirements on the size of their economy, GDP, what they can provide back to NATO. They just don't meet that. Obviously, they're in a state of war. They are getting help from all over. And we don't know what a Ukrainian economy looks like after the war because we don't know what part of their industry they'll get to hold on to. And so this seems like the only the only way of joining NATO they have, which is this security guarantee, so security relationship with NATO countries to include the U.S. that I don't know what that looks like. I mean, when you take that term security guarantee, then they say, which is similar to Article 5 in NATO, what we need to know as Americans before anything, and what we will find out, is what type of commitment and tie is there? Because if the end result here is that Ukraine has all parts of ties to NATO that they can qualify for at this moment, which may just be defensive in some way, well, then that means Putin is getting one of the things he said caused him to invade Ukraine to begin with, right? He said, I think in his interview with Carlson, that part of his motivation for going into Ukraine was this flirting, or it seemed like inevitable joining of NATO, and he was promised NATO would not continue to creep closer to him. Well, if you end up with the same type of defensive relationship between NATO and Ukraine, then you went to war with Ukraine, and all you did was cause the thing you were trying to prevent. So there's a lot of questions left there. On the other side of it, if Ukraine can't pay, just like we've asked every other NATO country to pay more for the security of the other countries, then is it a liability for us to enter into an agreement with Ukraine like that? So that is the linchpin in my mind, is what can you do and what can you sign that Putin's okay with, that gives any kind of future stability to the region? Because that is something that is in our interest, is to not have Russia invading Ukraine every 10 years and getting something out of it until there's no Ukraine left. And so that is the problem. I understand exactly where Zelensky, and for that matter, Europe is on this. But America first is what Donald Trump got elected on. And right now, China is the enemy we're worried about. And if pushing Russia further towards China, because this peace deal isn't the one we're looking for Ukraine, ultimately hurts us worse, that's something President Trump has to look at.
Also, I would like an audit of Ukraine. I'd like to know where all of our tax dollars went, because there's another reason that Ukraine can't join NATO, and it's because it's a pretty corrupt country, and we know that. So I'd like to see an audit. I want to know where the money is going. I want it all accounted for. I want to know how much Zelensky's gotten out of this deal. I want to know what he's driving. I want to know what his house looks like. All those things. I like to see what I'm paying for. You know, like any good custodian of our tax dollars, we need to see. We need to see the proof in the pudding.
Can we get an audit of our government and the officials in it as well? Because I would like to at least start there. We tried that. It didn't work out very well, or as well as we wanted it to this year. And that's just, we look at some of these senators that are lobbying to keep this Ukraine fight going, and you want to ask yourself, who's lobbied them? Yeah. And the answer is probably pretty obvious and pretty disheartening.
It certainly is. Here's something else that's super disheartening. The effects of an open border, they continue to reverberate even in places that don't put up with it, like Florida. So we got an illegal alien, right, who came through in 2018 through Mexico. He's an Indian national, comes through in 2018, gets a commercial driver's license in California because they hand those things out like candy or crack. And then you got a horrible illegal U-turn. You've got a minivan, and you got 3 people dead because of it. We've got footage also that's really disturbing of the illegal alien in question driving. And after, this van smokes it, after this illegal U-turn, you've got somebody who doesn't look super concerned that he could have maybe just people. I mean, this should be a national outrage. And I think for a lot of people it is. But what's your take on, I guess, his demeanor too?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is how tragic and unnecessary that was. I mean, I've got a 16-year-old son that just started driving, and because of where we live, he can get on the interstate for a couple of miles to get to school quicker than taking the back roads. And this is the kind of thing I have to worry about. I live on the I-75. It's a major corridor down to Florida. For all I know, this guy came through there on his way down there. And the first thing I would want to know is, does the state of Florida have any position to sue the state of California in a lawsuit for allowing this guy to have a license? I mean, I don't know what he passed and what he didn't, but it looks to me like he doesn't have a clue what the laws of the road are, because I've never in my life have I seen an 18-wheeler attempt that. And I know a lot of truck drivers, and I think most of them are left flabbergasted that this truck driver tried. I mean, the amount of laws broken attempting that, and the stupidity or at best ignorance to even think he could, it really blows my mind. I mean, it really does, just understanding that industry as well as I do. And then on top of that, I don't care if this person's evil or just outright stupid. There are people dead that did not deserve to die and did nothing wrong. And so I hope he goes to jail for the rest of his life. And I hope that serves as some sort of indicator to states like California, I guess, that are more willing to put our lives at risk than to implement the law correctly. I mean, to the very least, there's somebody at some level of government that issued that man a license he either didn't qualify for or didn't pass the test for. And that blows my mind.
Well, the first thing should be you're not a citizen. So I don't know why in so many of these states we're handing out driver's licenses to illegal aliens. It's just absurd to me. And it's not even just this, which is egregious as is. But we keep getting stories about illegal aliens, migrants, their visa overstays, or they came in illegally. You know, any way that you shape this up, they shouldn't be here, right? And they're driving for these rideshare companies. You just had another one. He sexually assaulted a woman in the back of the Uber that fell asleep because he was an Uber driver, and he shouldn't have been here. And he was either a visa overstay or an illegal or both, okay? I don't understand why these companies are not held to greater account for issuing...
Exactly.
If we're issuing employment, even if it's a rideshare company, to people who shouldn't be in this country. I mean, when you think about it, how many illegal aliens are working for DoorDash, working for Uber Eats, working for Lyft, working for Uber? I'm actually really astounded that this hasn't been made a bigger deal of, because it really puts people in grave danger, especially as I sit here in a tourist city like Nashville, Tennessee. I've been warning about this for years. It's really terrifying.
Yeah, you know, if you own a daycare and you hire a sex offender to work there, to the very least, you go bankrupt, right? You lose your business if you don't go to jail for circumventing the law. So this makes us go, are there not laws that say you at least need to be a citizen and have a valid license in order to work for these companies? And if that's not the case, well, aren't there? Let me call my congressman and make sure that is a law, because that seems like a pretty damn common sense law that if you're not from here and you've done nothing to show you understand this country, then how can you operate a commercial vehicle in this country? I mean, I just don't understand that. You know, it's not even about this person's character as far as being an evil person and killing people. It's about if you're willing to come here and cheat us and it results in us dying, then you're at fault and you need to go to jail for the rest of your life. And whoever hired that man, they need to be held accountable too. That's the only way to fix this. We can't rely on the California government to fix it. We really can't rely on our government to fix it, but we can hold people accountable to the fullest extent of the law. And in doing so, perhaps deter a few people from being this stupid to hire someone like that.
Well, and yeah, a commercial trucking company is bad enough, but when you think, I just can't even imagine how many illegals are working for the rideshare companies.
And that's you're so vulnerable. You know, the thing about the ride share, you live in Nashville.
Yeah.
I mean, how many 21 to 30 age women right out of college, in college, trying to get a career in the business that is Nashville, take an Uber at 2:00 in the morning, not because they're drunk and stupid, but because they were playing a gig and they're trying to get back home so they can get up and do their day job tomorrow morning. And to think about some of our most vulnerable, which I would put young women in that category of some of our most vulnerable that we're supposed to provide or to protect, and to think that we're leaving them exposed like that because Uber's too big of a company to lose. Why aren't we cracking down on that? Why isn't that something that is a big effort that people aren't championing? We talk about Lake and Riley, and I know her dad. She's from this part of the country. She's just one, but one was too many. One was entirely too many for a problem that should have never existed to begin with. And if this is the next iteration of that, where the illegals are slightly smarter and they're finding ways to get jobs that they can circumvent the system, that's scary. And it's something that I hope President Trump puts a focus on.
Well, and you have told me before that you've been a victim of having your social security number stolen or people using it. And a lot of these rideshare companies, now, again, we're not saying all these people are criminals, all these people are bad people. A lot of these people just want to work. And so they want to drive for Uber or DoorDash or whatever because that's a job that they can do. And a lot of them, if they're not using someone else's identity, you've got one person who has a social security number or has a valid driver's license, and they've got a bunch of other illegals working underneath of them, using their name, using their profile, and driving on their behalf. I've seen it countless times in Nashville. And a lot of these people are good people and they just want to work and they want to make some money. But it only takes one person to be driving a young girl home from Broadway or what have you for things to go really, really wrong. So it's really easy for a lot to go wrong in this system. And I'm looking not even at the illegal aliens. I'm looking at the companies, to your point, that are enabling it. They need to be doing in-person screening. They need to be doing checkups. They make enough money off these people. I mean, my God, you get a $40 Uber, they're making about $10 off that. Like, they could be doing a little more.
Yeah, here's the thing. Like, I come from Dalton, Georgia. And if you look it up, it's carpet capital of the world. What does that mean? It means there's a bunch of textile mills here. And through the 80s and 90s, a whole bunch of people were imported from Mexico to work here. And so, there's that term. They're good people just trying to make a living. And the empathetic side of all of us can see that. But let me tell you, if you're stealing people's identity to get a job, if you are lying to pass a background check that is there for a reason to get a job where people are vulnerable and in your custody, I'm sorry, but you're not a good person. You might not be an evil one. You may just be stupid, or you might just be a little bit of a liar and a cheater, but you're not a good person. A good person doesn't lie and cheat to get ahead in life. A good person takes advantage of the opportunities that are presented in front of them. And let me tell you, it's a big world, and those opportunities aren't the same around the world. I know I won the lottery by being born here, and I hate it if you didn't, but that's not for you to cheat. It's not for you to come here illegally and take advantage of it anyway. I'm sorry, that's just the way the world works. And so, yeah, absolutely, I know folks that came to this country illegally. Mostly I know the kids, the American citizen kids of those that came to this country illegally. And I don't think all of them are evil. But if they came here and they paid no taxes because they claimed 12 dependents for 4 years in a row, and once the IRS caught up to them, they disappeared for a year and came back under a different name and social security number, which happened by the thousands in my life. If they came here, they paid no taxes. They never got a driver's license. They never pulled insurance on their car. I mean, all these things were commonplace in my town for 20 years. I've got family members that were T-boned by a drunk driver that had no license, no insurance, probably drove here for 10 years before it happened. I've seen it firsthand. That doesn't make you a good person. Your intent may not be evil, but you're not good to do that. And let me tell you, if you're a citizen and you're here and you're doing that, you're not a good person either. And when you get caught, you go to jail. And after you go to jail, the rest of your life is cemented as a criminal or a felon, and the opportunities that are afforded to you get smaller and smaller. That is a repercussion in this country. And we don't even, that's not even something that these people would have because they're going to get deported and come back under a different name. That's the system they do.
Yeah. Thank goodness President Trump is doing something, but there's a lot to untangle. Another thing I want to talk to you about, and it kind of goes in some way hand in hand with your new book, but I got to talk to you about D.C. I don't spend a lot of time in D.C. I spend a lot more time in New York City. Also not, the safest, cleanest place on planet Earth. But the couple of times I've been to D.C., I've also been for the inauguration when things are really locked down and pretty safe, even to a point of almost an annoyance how safe it is. It's like you can't go anywhere, you can't do anything. But now in D.C., the fact that you've got these people out there protesting more safety and security for them. Now, there's been some discussion if these people are really grassroots, if they even really live in D.C., if they come from other places, if they make a living doing this. But I just can't imagine how broken your brain has to be to protest having more security in your own community. I don't get it, Joey. It's like the Democrats. Trump has just melted their brains so much that they want to lose every future election, and also they want to be in danger.
Well, first, I'll tell you, those people aren't from D.C. I don't believe that for me. I've lived in D.C. The residential areas of D.C., for the most part, they're up north. They're towards Maryland. They're not towards downtown. And I've seen TikTokers and influencers from all over, basically, calling for people to go to D.C. and protest. So I don't believe those people are from D.C. I don't believe the people outraged by it are from D.C. because the people that live in D.C. have to live with this. And it is scary, and it is real, and it's true. President Trump isn't even doing this as some campaign promise. He's doing it because he lives there and he sees it, and the repercussions of it are touching his life as president of the United States. And he knows it's the right thing to do. And, we even saw it with the DC mayor. I mean, she was to the point that she was almost happy to accept the help and not condemn it until her radical base got to her. And then she's like, oh yeah, well, I guess I better play along. But even you could see that she understood why it was happening. And she almost said as much. I love that they're only Their only pushback are these manipulated and, manufactured crime statistics where certain types of crime have gone down, or maybe overall crime has gone down. It's like, I believe it's Mark Twain that ostensibly said, stats, and more lies. And so you can take numbers and turn them into whatever you need them to be if you cherry pick. But the truth is, people are dying in DC in the most needless ways because there isn't any type of law and order. And part of that is young people being held accountable. We saw a U.S. Attorney Pirro talk about that very matter-of-factly, very sternly, and so on and so forth. I think it also opens up the conversation of, should we have large residential areas in an autonomous district rather than in the state of Maryland? Maybe DC as a makeup should change.
Yeah. And young people could really use some parenting, and they could use some stiff consequences. I want to talk to you about one other thing I almost forgot. It's a cultural moment. We've talked about some serious stuff here, but I tweeted something last night, exit, whatever you call it now. I'm seeing the outrage. I'm sure you see it on your social feeds as well, because the algorithm feeds it to us, right? I'm seeing people just outraged that there are these male cheerleaders who are, I'm not going to say, they're gay, but they look gay. Okay, they're probably gay. And they're cheerleaders, and they're for the Vikings, and they're for whatever. And, they're male cheerleaders who are dancing with the women. And I mean, they're talented. You can't say they do a bad job. But there are some folks that are just super, super outraged that they're being included here. And I tweeted something that got me, once again, a lot of heat from conservatives. I said, I think we've just got bigger problems. At least they're not pretending they are women, right? They're like, at least they're wearing shorts and they're like, yes, I'm a gay man. But I think that it actually distracts from the greater purpose of conservatism and our ideals and what we're fighting for, when conservatives, especially on social media, have to get outraged by everything. Because in the scheme of things, especially with everything the NFL has done, this is in Minnesota, the Vikings, considering everything going on in Minnesota, possibly having a mayor that's a full-blown communist, right? I just don't think that it's worth crying over this. I think that it makes conservatives look like we clutch our pearls over everything. And I don't really care if there's some gay male cheerleaders. I guess it just doesn't hit my radar as something to be outraged over. But Twitter was quick to remind me that made me a feminist.
Here's the deal. And I will soon learn, because I've got a 6-year-old daughter, and I think she's leaning towards possibly being a cheerleader. She started dance and tumbling, so that might be in her future. But here's the deal. I don't know enough about cheerleading to know the answer to the question I'm about to pose, which is, in my opinion, the only reason to be outraged, which is, were there women in a traditionally female sport that were better than them that didn't get a chance to be on the squad because they said, hey, we want some guys on here? That would be the reason why I would get upset. Outside of that, I kind of agree with you. Do I like it? Not necessarily, but there's a lot of things I don't like that are accepted part of culture. I don't drink. I don't like alcohol. I'm not going to go tell a bunch of people not to drink anymore. Like I said, I think it's on the other side of the big line that they're not dressed as women out there doing it. And so that's a big deal for me. Men have been a part of cheerleading teams for probably longer than we realize. I've got buddies I played football with that went to college to be a male cheerleader because they were strong and could hold the girls up, and they got a scholarship to do it. And so I don't know what these guys' sexual orientation are, but they're very effeminate men. And I think that's what a lot of people retract from, because they're not the strong guys holding the women up. They're the ones doing the tumbling. I'm going to laugh at it because it looks weird and I think it's funny. I wouldn't be mean to those guys if I met them in public. I don't have any hate in my heart towards them. It's just a little bit odd, but there also isn't some rule that says cheerleading is a female only sport. So it's a little bit different than like a Title IX violation, which is something that I do think we should be keeping an eye on and looking for ways people are circumventing it. So I kind of agree with you. I mean, if you're taking issue with it because you have questions, that's fair. We're in a heated part right now where we almost have to fight for every inch in this transgender phenomenon that's taken over our kids' sports. But these are grown-up professional adults. The men aren't disguising themselves as women. I really don't think this fits into that category at all.
I don't either, and I think it distracts from, like I said, the bigger fight, which is fighting for the integrity of women's sports, especially at the high school and the collegiate level. It's like there's some dudes that are good dancers. I don't know if people are not familiar with this or not, but there are a lot of gay dudes that dance. There are a lot of gay dudes who are backup dancers, who are Broadway dancers, who are in theater, who make up drama departments. It's
True.
not like this is a new thing.
there are a lot of straight masculine men that can dance a lot better than I ever could. That's not a bone I have, and it's hard for me to criticize or even understand it. I would rather talk about politics and take bombs apart than dance or sing in front of people. So to that extent, I give them props because they've got more courage than I do. There's no way I could go out there and dance in any form or fashion in front of people if I still had my legs. So, it's not something that, at some point, the world isn't the world I envision it to be. It's the world I live in. And I have to accept people that mean me no harm and do no harm to my kids for who they are. And I think these men fit into that category a hell of a lot more than the ones that want to be in my girl's bathroom.
Exactly. That's a point well made. Joey, you've written so many great books telling other people's stories, and I know that that's always your primary mission and goal, not even just to tell about your own tales, but to highlight other people who maybe don't get as much spotlight, maybe don't get their stories told on national TV or anywhere, and you do such a great job of that. You've done it with the military. Now you're doing it with law enforcement and those who are protecting and defending our communities. Tell me a little bit about the book. Obviously an instant success.
Yeah, we have the Fox platform, those of us that are contributors and associated with Fox. When we write a book, we have a chance to go on a big platform and tell people about it. And by that extent, we have a chance to sell a lot of books. This book has done really well for a while, and it's not because of the Fox platform. It's because of what's inside of it. It's because people are reading it and telling the people in their family to go read it. And to that extent, I am beyond humbled because this book is not about me. This book is not a showcase or a highlight of my talent in any way. This book is a very humble attempt to get 9 of millions of stories of first responders out there for people to read and learn and have a better understanding of who these heroes are that walk among us every single day. As a member of the military, as a veteran who fought 2 wars, I get a lot of congratulations and adulation and thank you for your service. And I'm sorry you were injured. I see the respect and the appreciation in society just about everywhere I go. And it's really hard for me to accept that when I'm standing next to my brother-in-law that's been a firefighter for nearly 30 years. And he's seen worse things than I have, and he's seen them in his own hometown, and he's still doing it every day to save lives. And I just want people to better understand, one, how much they actually do to save our lives and our property and our kids, and 2, the sacrifice and burden they carry from it, the trauma that they endure. I mean, I've used this a lot, but just think about taking your kids to school through an intersection that you scraped someone else's kid up off of last night. I mean, living in your battlefield and having the things that are most precious to you live in your battlefield, your family. That's the trauma they endure. That's what they weigh in order to do that job. They see behind the curtain the rest of us don't want to. We have a friend that dies in a car wreck. We have the memory of the last time we saw them, and we have the memory of the casket where they have the clothes and they're made up. We don't have all that in between, but that's what the first responders saw. Some of them tried to keep that friend alive, and that's what they live with. And I think we should appreciate it and maybe read about it and understand it better. And that's what this book tries to do.
Well, you're excellent at telling these stories, and it's so needed. And, you're very right about that. I don't think we give enough appreciation to our military, but we certainly don't give enough appreciation to our police officers, our ICE agents, our CBP agents, all these people that are out there being demonized on a daily basis. They don't often get to tell their story because sometimes they don't even want to. And it takes a little bit to pull it out of them because a lot of them don't want the pat on the back. But it's important to hear their stories and inspire more people to sign up to do these jobs because that's exactly what this does when you can hear about their morality and you can hear about their bravery. So, Joey, it's an instant success. Everybody's already seen it and knows all about it. But for those who haven't, behind the badge. And I look forward to seeing you again, my friend, sometime soon. Hopefully, New York City will not have a communist mayor the next time I see you. We can only hope.
Yeah, we can only hope, I guess. I go there about as much as you do, and I consider it serving my time.
Yes. And then getting back to God's country.
That's it.
In both of our great states. Joey, thank you so much. Be safe, and I hope to see you soon.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Newsom and the beta males who run his press office account really think they're making fetch happen. And it's actually kind of sad to observe. It's time for final thoughts. Y'all, Gavin Newsom really wants to be president. I don't know if you could tell. I mean, Stevie Wonder and Helen Keller could tell. Now, there was once a time that I cautioned my fellow conservatives not to underestimate Gavin. He's a slick talker. He changes his tune better than a Michael Bay transformer. He's got all the makings of a snake in the grass. But I was wrong. Let's go ahead and cross him off the list of Democrats to keep an eye on. He's embarrassed himself to such a degree on social media. He better hope that plump Jack wine business can sustain him after his reign as California's worst governor in history comes to its inevitable end. I mean, just take a look at this. He's trying to troll President Trump and the beta males who, no doubt, pee sitting down. They think they're really doing it too. They think this is really working for them. Yeah, it's kind of sad, actually. Like, I have secondhand embarrassment. I don't even know or like these people, and I'm embarrassed for them. They even thought it'd be cutesy to go after me, which was funny, but also kind of a mistake. The most entertaining part of all this isn't just the realization that these boy men are ending Gavin's even remote chances at becoming president, but also single-handedly depleting the nation's soy supply, no doubt. I don't know if it's all the weed in California, something in the air, the water, or what, but it's really something to behold and laugh at from the great state of Tennessee, of course. With all the problems in California, the homelessness, bullet train to nowhere, population leaving for better states, gas prices, fire-ravaged areas wherein people still cannot rebuild their homes, Gavin and his press office are more concerned with posting on X and, of course, doing podcasts.
I have a tweet here.
Which one's this?
This is, well, what I would love is to have you read this in your voice. If you'd like to just take a shot at it.
Well, I mean, wow. Tomorrow history will be made. Now, I'm not going to be as effectively as the person that you may recognize is on True Social, but in this case, we pushed this out on Twitter. Caroline Levitt will have no answers for this.
Well, hold on. I don't want you to breeze right through the brilliant. Go on. It's not just Caroline Levitt.
Caroline
Levitt, that's right.
Of no answers for the supposed fake media about California's beautiful, big, beautiful maps. People are saying that we're the greatest maps. They're just saying this. They are, Brian. People are saying the greatest maps.
Many people have heard that.
Ever created. Even better than Christopher Columbus's. Donald the Failure Trump, be warned that tomorrow may be the worst day of your life, all because you missed the deadline. He misses a lot of deadlines. Liberation Day for America, GCN. I should have said thank you for your attention to this matter.
I'm sorry I put you through that. It's yuck. Gavin and the boys he surrounds himself with are the literal definition of the word ick. And those are my final thoughts. Tune in live tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern. Catch full episodes on Outkick and Fox Nation. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Tomi Lahren is Fearless. From Nashville, God bless and take care. Hey, thanks for watching. For more of my hottest takes, must-see conversations, and of course, my final thoughts, click right here. And don't forget to subscribe. Just click right here so you never miss a beat. I will be here every weekday, and I hope you'll join me.